What is going on, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Classic Chronicles. I hope everybody enjoyed their weekend and is ready to conquer the week that is, man. So this episode, I just wanted to talk about my experience going back to my alma mater, well, at least my undergrad alma mater, John Jay, and having the pleasure of lecturing my mentor and one of my absolutely favorite people on the planet, Professor Duffy's Violence in the Pursuit of Justice class. So I got to go back last Tuesday, and man, what an experience it was. I felt a sense of not only nostalgia, coming back to John Jay for the first time in so long, but just a sense of home. Whenever I walk, whenever I roll into that building, I feel a sense of warmth. It feels like I'm home. Because I've had so many great memories at John Jay. So many great professors, made some lifelong friends there. And anytime that I get to go back is an absolute honor. And huge shout out to Professor Duffy for inviting me back. And like I said, I spoke to her class, her Violence in the Pursuit of Justice class, and we talked about the documentary Crip Camp, which, for those of you who don't know, is you know it tells the story of how the Americans with Disabilities Act came to be, and what life was like before, the act, and what life has what how life has changed for the differently able community since the act was enacted, and you know and it also depicts a group of campers that went to that are at this camp for the differently able community before the disabled the Americans with Disabilities Act was enacted. So, and then it also shows the fight that the differently able community had to put up, not only to get a certain rights that everyone should be entitled to, like healthcare, or equal employment and stuff like that, but just to be treated as humans, and treated as humans. Because if you watch that documentary Crip Camp, you'll see that the differently able community was, prior to the adoption of the Americans with Disabilities Act, were treated like test subjects in experiments. It's very disheartening to see. It was very disheartening to watch. I mean, I've seen the documentary several times, but I watched it back last week for the first time in like a couple of years, and it never gets any easier to watch. Despite its message, and fighting for equality and stuff like that. The parts where they illustrate how the differently able community was treated before the Americans with Disabilities Act are still hard to watch. And but for me, it's also a lesson. Um, we've come so far as as a community, but we still have a long, long way to go. And with everything that's going on in the world right now, I'm not gonna get too much into it because it involves politics. But the fight is still on, and it will rage on. But anyway, man, I got to speak to Professor Duffy's students, and also Professor Markowitz. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the Professor Markowitz. He was also a part of the class, and um, he co-teaches the class with Professor Duffy, and he had some. I had never met him prior to this, so so getting to meet him and him asking me questions along with the rest of the students was a pretty cool experience, man. I've done elementary school and high school, but I've never and I've only guest lectured a college class one other time, and that was also with Professor Duffy. But man, it's such a rewarding experience because you know they were asking me questions about my experiences at John Jay, and there was a woman in Professor Duffy and Professor Markowitz's class that actually had to deal with disabled services and stuff like that. So she was asking me about my experience when I went to John Jay, and how much things have changed since then. I got to learn a little bit of how much things have changed since I left John Jay back in 2013, over a decade ago. So, and man, it's crazy. But also just having the class was very very informed about the documentary, and they had some really really great questions for me, and it was an absolute pleasure to get to provide my insight on as a member of the different labor community, and educate them a little bit. But they educated me because they kept me on my toes, and they're a wonderful group of students. I hope to see some of them down the line, and it was just a really really good experience, man. If Professor Duffy and Professor Markowitz teach that same subject next semester, I would love to come back if they would have me to lecture the next group of students, man, because it was a very very cool experience, and I've certainly it certainly humbles me to know that Professor Duffy would reach out to me and have me offer my insight to a group of such amazing students. Man, just what a great day it was, man. And yeah, I would love to do it again. But yeah, honestly, I couldn't have asked for a better experience. Like I said, Professor Duffy is somebody who I hold in such high regard because she kind of instilled the forever love of theater arts in me, and we chat we don't chat as often as I'd like, but we do check in on each other every now and again, and it's always nice to hear from her, and anytime that she needs a favor from me, whatever it is, I'll be happy to oblige, because she's done so much for me, and I can only hope that I'm doing her justice with the lectures that my insight and lecture and the opportunity to guest lecture to her class. But yeah. Anyway, that is gonna do it for this episode of the Classic Chronicles, man. Like, subscribe, share. Don't forget to hit that notification button so you don't miss a video. And I, of course, will see you guys on the next one. Peace.